headline news. Curious to see Wyatt's take on this Naquan Tomlin situation for what he is allowed to talk about, and we'll be appropriately careful with that with him. But we'll get into some of that. We've got Paul Savage coming in top of the next hour. We're going to pick some football games. Only one college game to pick, and then it's heavy on the NFL. So we'll do that as well throughout the show today. We will take your calls on the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. We will give something away, I believe. We'll check with Max on that. But we've got some tickets to give away. We'll get into all of it. Tommy, how are you this morning?
Man, I'm good. I was thinking about it before we came on the show, and I know that you like to say how weird the NFL season has been this year. Did you know that we had Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts against each other a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't throw for as many touchdowns as Bailey Zappi and Mitchell Trubisky did last night on Thursday Night Football? I mean, it's a weird NFL season just because of that fact alone.
Look, nothing is a given this year in the NFL. And it's not just in games like last night where you have, one team that's been really bad this year and one team without its quarterback. That, like, it's in every game where it's just like, what are we going to get here? And there have been so few consistently good teams league-wide this year. I'm not sure. Philadelphia is probably it, honestly. Maybe Dallas. But even there, you can, Dallas, sort of like Miami, they don't have any wins over really good teams yet. You look at San Francisco, who just randomly lost 3 games in a row. We've talked about the Chiefs ad nauseum, which we'll do more of today. But there's just been no dominating, consistent, basically what the Chiefs and Bills and to some degree Bengals have been in years past. The Eagles, we just haven't seen that. The Eagles have been the closest thing. And they're facing a stretch of games here where that may turn sideways on them too. But you could almost see it coming. I mean, as much as we joked yesterday, oh my God, this is going to be the worst game ever. And then within 5 game minutes, there's 3 touchdowns. It felt like, and you're like, well, okay, of course there are.
Yeah, that's the way that, it's been set up. You think it's going to go under. You think that nobody's going to score. You think that it's going to be just a terrible game to watch. And then all of a sudden you've got a bunch of touchdowns in the first half. It kind of settled down in the second half. The Steelers looked like they were, they had opportunities to win the game. They had opportunities to, at the very minimum, tie the game at the end. And watching Mitchell Trubisky in the second half, man, I just kept thinking, how in the world was this guy a Pro Bowler at one point in his career? I mean, some of those passes were so bad. What? I mean, and the Patriots aren't. Trubisky was a Pro Bowler at one point in his career. Like, how did that happen? How in the world did that happen where you had Trubisky making the Pro Bowl? Because some of those passes were just absolutely terrible against a Patriots team that we all know how bad they've been this year. So, I mean, it was entertaining. It was entertaining in the way that, the times when you are driving down the road and you happen to pass a car accident and you can't help but look at what's going on as you drive by. Like, that's kind of the way that the Patriots and the Steelers were last night.
But it was, it was an entertaining game. I mean, at least it gave us that, right? And I was in and out of it. I wasn't locked in or anything, but it was it wasn't an awful game to watch. Like, you remember Vikings Bears, whenever that was recently, that was awful to watch. That hurt your eyes. The last night did not do that. Last night was fine. It was a fine game to watch. No, not many issues, but we'll see. I'm sure Patriot fans are ready to pull their hair out. Like, really? Now you're going to win a game and blow the chance to, to fix quarterback, whatever. But yeah, that, we won't. And Max, you're a Patriots guy, right? I think Max is a Patriots guy.
Is he?
Yeah. So, it's just, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. If you're a Patriots fan, because you want them to lose. You want to take your swing at whichever quarterback. But, Bill Belichick's not going to let that happen. You know better than that. All right, Tommy, let's so yesterday evening, and we'll get this out there and chat about it a bit before we bring in Wyatt Thompson in our next segment. Yesterday evening, we get the message from Jerome Tang, the one that we talked about yesterday, the one that, with all the things that are happening and everything else, like, for me, it's just, I need to hear from the coach. Earlier in the day yesterday, we get a video from a reporter in Topeka, I believe, and I can't recall her name, so my apologies, but you can find it there on Twitter. But so he and I think it was Dowling, Coach Dowling, show up as students are. It looked like they were getting ready to do another protest for Naquan Tomlin, and those two guys, Coach Tang, Coach Dow, they show up and they just tell them, you know what, spread the love instead. We love you guys for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Naquan, but let's you just spread the love. You're like, okay, number one, that's leadership, right? Like, go and meet with those students who have concern, right? It's what leadership on a college campus should do. You have concerned students, you meet with them, you figure out what's going on, and you try and solve the problem. That's what any good leader should do, right? Crickets from other places on campus. Then last night we get the video, and cleverly done. Kudos to Jerome Tang and the social media staff who always knocks it out of the park at K-State. They took his vintage purple couch that he likes to put on campus and just kind of chat with people, put it in the gym, dark gym, good look, good ambiance. And the message from Tang was essentially, we love Naquan Tomlin. We want the best for Naquan Tomlin. Basically, let's just keep loving and let's move on from this. So it was as clear, I think, Tommy, as it could be. We were never going to get a situation where Jerome Tang gets up there and rails administration for the way this is handled. That wasn't going to happen. But what we do get is something from a position of leadership, and it's basically Coach Tang trying to settle people down and diffuse a really hostile situation as much as he can publicly. One, because he still has a season to play. Two, to reassure fans that he really does appreciate them and his time in Manhattan. But definitely not a message of support on the decision, because I don't think he does support the decision. Just, based on everything we've seen in the way it plays out. But again, just another great example of how good a natural leader Tang is, and a stark contrast. And I don't think he intended to do this, but it stands out to me so blatantly that he's out there doing that and trying to, make this situation better. And then the people that made the decision aren't going to do any of that. They're going to sit and hide. They're going to make a decision and hide. And that's just what happens over and over and over again. And it's also why Gene Taylor's never hid from any decision that he's made that I can remember. Yet we're getting this goes to the top, and it's another example of just how out of touch these administrators can be with what's going on, and a lack of communication and leadership. It happens all the time. But good for Coach Tang for doing his part.
That video was 1 minute and 20 seconds long, and I want to give kudos to Jerome Tang in that video for talking for a minute and 20 seconds and really not saying a whole lot. Because I'm a little bit different than you, and I don't blame Jerome Tang for this. But I didn't really feel like it was super clear. I mean, other than we want to support Naquan Tomlin and spread love. Like, that was basically the message, right? And he kind of drug it out over the course of 1 minute and 20 seconds. There was a lot more that I think he wanted to say, and a lot more he probably could have said that, would have shed a lot more clarity on the situation. But like you mentioned, that's never going to happen with the power structure and the way that things, operate at Kansas State. So, I mean, he talked for 1:20. Basically, I think he said spread the love about 45 times, in the video. Talked about how much he does appreciate the fan base and all of that. I love the fact that he was front and center with the video. I'm not criticizing the video at all, because, I mean, your hands are kind of tied, right? If you're Jerome Tang, there's very little you can say. So actually, legitimately, kudos to him for stretching it out for as long as he did, when really I'm sure there was a lot more on his mind that he would have liked to say. That makes it really tough, because you're operating and you're talking, but it kind of feels like you're muzzled a little bit, and this is something that's being shared by the official account with the university. But I told you last night after the video came out, I'm sure there's a lot more that Jerome Tang would love to say, but he's not going to, and we're not going to hear it that way. And he shouldn't. I mean, in the way that things have played out at this point, it's not going to do any good.
That's what I mean. I don't know that there is much more he wants to say in that setting, because at issue is going are going
in that setting, right?
Just in a setting publicly, not just in like that specific setting, but publicly in any setting. I don't think he has any interest in derailing the momentum and the buzz that's been created over the last 17 months that he's been on campus there. That's not what's important to focus on for everybody. He wants to make sure the focus is still on all the momentum created, the fan base, like all of these things. And it, we know this now. I think we've had enough time. The genuine desire to do good things and make a positive impact. And he just isn't going to drag this through the mud. Now, whether that, what that means for him long term, I don't know. And I don't know what that relation, if you Fitz yesterday reported and others have that, the president there, Linton, would not meet with Tomlin or Tang. That's a problem. Okay. You've got your coach out here meeting with the concerned students, trying to understand the situation, not making a decision and hiding behind. You should never have to make decisions at that level that involve a student that you can't wear on your sleeve. You can't talk about everything, but you can listen to the concerned parties, right? That's good leadership. And as this plays out, what we're going to continue to see is Jerome Tang show great leadership and the administration hide. That's what we will see. Okay. So as that happens, right, then the pressure gets amped up without even being intentionally there on these administrators. And I can tell you, Tommy, if you went to the people that mattered to that university and the supporters of the university and the student body and the faculty, and you asked all of them, who is more important to Kansas State University right now? I don't know that the academic, that group is going to like the answer, because it's Jerome Tang. Who has a bigger impact on that university right now, and who is showing the great leadership right now? Linton is going to be in trouble with this decision if he doesn't come out and publicly do something to assuage the concerns of the masses here. It's going to be a big problem for him, because when you continue to see this great leadership and the success on the court, let's never forget that that's important. It's just like the people that matter there are going to do everything they can to support Tang in this and make sure this isn't something that compromises something awesome. I feel bad for Gene Taylor. I don't know what he's allowed to do. And that's the problem too. Like at some point, like if you can't just like thumb your nose in the face of your boss, that's not what you can do either. But man, what a dumb situation.
Yeah, and look, I was about to bring that up too. The other elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned, is Gene Taylor's role in all of this. And we know that he's the one that released that statement, but Fitz mentioned it yesterday. That statement, from what he could tell, came from the president. And so, that's a tough position to be in, because you're kind of caught in the middle between the president and between the head coach and the player. And, that statement seemed pretty contrived. Fitz said that it seemed like Taylor was sort of forced to, release it under threat of disciplinary action or whatever that was. I have no idea what that means, but that's the way that it looks. At what point, and will we ever hear from Gene Taylor again on the matter? Or is it, do you put him more in the camp of Jerome Tang, or do you have to put him more in the camp of Richard Linton when you're assessing the blame on this, when you're assessing the way that it all kind of came out? Is Gene Taylor in the administration camp on this, or is he more on the side of Jerome Tang? And that's what we don't know.
Oh, I think I would imagine
we don't know.
We're not going to publicly, right? Yeah. The people that matter will know. Like Jerome Tang will know, right? He knows that answer. He knows whether he's got the support of Taylor or not. My guess is he does. But we're never going to get that publicly, because you can't. And it's not you can't because you've already got a boss that's clearly easily offended, I guess. And I don't know why. Like what the still the strangest part of this to me is why like that decision then, right? Why the decision to dismiss him then? And that's the part, like you said, we can finally now tell you in the statement that he can no longer be with the program. Why is that? Right? Like what changed between Tuesday night and Wednesday night, basically? The only thing that we can see that
basketball
changed,
game against Villanova. That's what
no,
happened.
I know. I'm saying after that game, the only
Right.
thing that we can see that changed is that Naquan Tomlin was on the bench. He was with the fans after the game, and he said hello to the upset students the next day. That's all we can see. So again, like it doesn't make sense. It's too easy to connect the dots. And I run into this, and we've run into this with Wichita State in prior administrations and everything else. If you're going to make that impactful a decision and not be front facing with it, all you leave is speculation. And I have no sympathy for that. You're doing nothing but letting people speculate and come up with scenarios. I don't care if you say they're not true. Then tell us what is. And it's BS, by the way, to say, oh, we can't talk about it. Yes, you can. You can talk about it. You can absolutely talk about it. You can say that he was in a situation where he was arrested. That's the situation. You can absolutely talk about that. It's public record. So don't give me that BS. And we'll see what happens. Otherwise, you're going to leave it open to speculation. And so there are a lot of communication departments on these college campuses that would tell you the best strategy is to not say anything at all and leave it open to speculation, which I fundamentally do not believe in, but that's the way it works. And it's happened too often. Let me let you know right now, that's the way it works. They feel like the answer in communication is to not communicate at all. And it happens all the time. K-State historically hasn't been that way, but they're being that way right now. So who knows? Let's get the IHOP hotline going here with Wyatt Thompson, the voice of the Wildcats. I don't know, just full disclosure, I don't know how much of this he's going to be able to talk about. My guess is very little, okay? But he'll be able to talk about Colin Klein. He'll be able to talk about Avery Johnson, the bowl game, and those things. By the way, we'll get into this. Avery Johnson, more or less assuring everybody that, look, he's there to stay for next year. He changed his number, did all that stuff. We'll get into that too. So we'll get to Wyatt Thompson when we return. Voice of the Cats, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. It'll be tied up now, but it'll be open the rest of the way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Sports Daily.
Your phone call is welcome. 869-1240. Sports Daily on 97.5 and 1240. KFH, Wichita's #1 sports radio.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH here. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor, Max Power producing for Jad this week. We'll give away some Wonka movie tickets coming up in just a little bit. Right now, we're joined by the voice of the K-State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, and we are happy to be joined by Wyatt Thompson in what has been a very interesting week up in Manhattan. Wyatt, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. Okay, so we're going to get into Colin Klein and Avery Johnson's video yesterday, which I'm certain you will be able to talk about. There's been the other situation with the basketball program, and we just want to be full disclosure with your role there at the university. How much are you just able to bring in a perspective or talk about this Naquan Tomlin situation?
Well, I can certainly talk about everything that have been enlightened on, but there are a couple of things that I probably am not qualified to speak on. This has been, as you said, a really very unique and emotional week at K-State. I think that goes without saying. What I can probably say about the Naquan Tomlin situation is that, you know, and I'm sure you've heard other people say this, that there's more to this story probably than will ever really be out there. It's really for me personally, it's really kind of a hard one to deal with, just because you know, I really struggling to say this, I guess. I really, really like Naquan, and I think he's really a pretty good kid. But you know, I guess at the end of the day, whatever the issues were, at least in terms of what I know, led to this. I apologize for struggling to put that into words, but I'm still trying to kind of get a grip on it myself, if I'm being totally honest about it.
There's no apology needed. Like, we understand that this is complicated, and we understand that there are a lot of elements in play here. That's we would never intend to put you in a position that's not like something that is sure. Okay. That's not why. Yeah. But it's what makes this difficult for I think the public is it's too easy to connect dots, whether they're true or untrue, and not enough has been done to prevent people from connecting those dots. To our eyes, what we've seen is a situation that took Naquan Tomlin off the court, some hopeful remedies to that situation, what appeared to be progress being made as he was with the team and everything seemed to be going great, and it was a great win, and he was having fun with the fans. And then things changed on a day the next day. And again, this is just what the perception here, that some students were upset. He showed the students that, and then all of a sudden he's not on the team anymore in a sequence of events that's uncommon at the university there, of how even just that day played out. Well, that's just going to leave the rest of us open to say, well, it looks like somebody got their feelings hurt and now he's not on the team. I mean, I don't know what else we're supposed to draw from that, because we just haven't been given any information.
Well, that is pretty eloquently said, I think. And I think it's pretty accurate. There's lots of, people involved here, all the way up to the university president, K-State's athletic director, basketball coach, one of our best players, lots and lots of things. And what you say, I think, certainly holds some water. I'm not saying, it's 100% accurate, but I do think that there is, a perception out there that, it's hard to connect the dots. I think that's more than fair.
Wyatt, I know one thing that you probably can talk about is the character of Jerome Tang. And Coach Tang came out last night with the video, and really the resounding message has been to continue to spread love, in the middle of this entire situation. I don't know, and I'm guessing you probably haven't at this point had a chance to talk with Coach Tang about this particular situation. But regardless of that, what do you know about the man and about what you think he's going through right now?
Well, this has been hard for everybody here. I don't think there's any question, but when I guess I'll say this, the reaction to the video that was put out on social media was exactly what I thought it would be, had hoped it would be. and I think it was a resounding message. Do you think all of that is accurate and
Yeah.
fair? He really truly is an amazing individual on so many different levels. I've done a lot of interviews this week, and I've said a lot of things about Coach Tang, and I've said a lot of things about Colin Klein, and a lot of the things that you say are, somewhat similar in what they are as people, as coaches, as leaders, as members of this community and this university community and all of that. And I don't know that you could get any better, if I'm being totally honest about that. I think we all see what Coach Tang has done on the floor. I think we knew going in that we were getting a really good man and a guy who could really recruit. Not sure everybody knew that much about the coaching, but even up and above and beyond that, and it's all great, is how he has kind of just turned this fan base, into something it hadn't been. And I'm not being critical that way. I'm being complimentary. He's an amazing individual in his messaging and how he believes and all of that. That's just the way I see it.
And what's really too bad about the entire situation is now, as a fan base is re-energized, maybe to a whole new level, as you said, nervous last year that somebody was going to pry him away, and then you get all the things that happen with commitments financially and all these things. They're like, okay, this is going to be good, this is long term, and now you have this situation. You got a nervous fan base all over again. That's almost that sucks as much as anything, as people now wonder about what this does to his long term future there.
Well, I guess I would say this, and I'm probably going to defend President Linton and Gene Taylor here a little bit. I think I am comfortable in telling you that I think Coach Tang has a good relationship with both of those gentlemen. He said in that messaging yesterday that he loves K-State, loves being here, loves the students, fans, donors, whatever. And I believe all of that to be so. I think he feels like he can win big here, and this is a place with a lot of passion. And I say that part to say that I think we've seen that passion this week, and that's what makes K-State uniquely, incredibly great, in my opinion, because these people do care. And I'm talking about K-Staters everywhere. They care about this place and their athletic teams, and they're not afraid to speak their mind, and I appreciate and respect that.
Let's talk a little bit about Colin Klein, Wyatt. Of course, going to Texas A&M, it's a big time jump for him to an SEC program. When the news came out, and of course we've known, for a while, the appeal that Colin Klein has to other programs, Notre Dame last season, and now A&M. What was your initial reaction when that news came down?
Well, mixed, if I'm being perfectly blunt about it. I've known Colin Klein a long time, and much like I said a moment ago, he's one of the finest people I know. There's just so much to him as a person. With what he did here as a player, and then as an assistant, and then as a coordinator, and just his love for this place in K-State. I think this is basically a scenario where Colin feels to get to where he eventually wants to be, which is a head coach. This is a move that he probably has to make, and it's not easy leaving a place he loves. But that, as you said perfectly, this isn't the first inquiry about his availability, and this one he finally took, and I believe some of it is monetary, but not all of it. He's going to make a heck of a lot of money at Texas A&M, but it's more about the process from my perspective. I think I can speak, pretty frankly about Colin, because he's been a friend for a long, long time, and that's the way I see it. With all of that said, I love the guy, but I'm going to miss the heck out of him, and I'm in that corner of maybe someday he'll be back. We'll see.
Well, I love that. Why? Because I've said that from the beginning. Yeah, there's a raise, but you have to think about it from Colin Klein's perspective for a second.
Correct.
And realize and just watch what happens in the SEC. If he goes there and is successful for a couple of years, he will very likely be a head coach in the SEC at a young age. That's just the way that league works. That's everybody's favorite thing, right? They hire from within, they sort of rotate around assistants. It happens all the time. And so if he can go put himself in that position, he's taking a potential career leap here that's just unbelievable to imagine. And then we can wonder, would he leave a middling SEC job to come back to Kansas State? Like, that's down the road. But in the short term, just from a career standpoint, this is a tremendous opportunity for him.
Without a doubt. And I think everybody really, if they're being honest with themselves, probably understands that. And I've, again, lots of emotions this week about that because of, just let's say it as bluntly as humanly possible, right? It's hard to see him go because he is such a great K-Stater, actually. And I love everything about the guy. And so, but yet in the same breath, you have to understand and respect exactly what you just said. This is what Colin Klein feels like he needs to do for he and Shaylin and those 4 little kids and his family. And I I understand it. It hurts, but I understand it and appreciate it.
I think the one thing, Wyatt, that everybody can agree upon with Texas A&M over the years is that they've had no issue. It's a matter of developing those players when they're in the program and winning games on the field. And that's one thing that I know that Mike Elko is big at, is development. And then also, obviously, Colin Klein, as far as developing offensive players, specifically quarterbacks. What do you think, from you knowing him and knowing what he's done in his time at Kansas State? What is he bringing to the Aggies as far as the ability to develop players?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that sticks out for me with Colin is his ability to lead and his personal relationship with each and every player in that quarterback room and a lot of players on the team. I think if you had a chance to visit with some of the players here about who Colin is and what he's all about, I think they would probably give you kind of the same type of message. I say this all the time about Coach Kleinman, but it's also true about Colin Klein. What you see in him is the same virtually every day. I'm not saying they don't have a bad day here and there, but in terms of how they handle themselves and all of that, we all strive for consistency in life, right? And those two guys are, pretty darn good at what they do on a daily basis, and there's very little deviation. And I have a pretty big appreciation for that because I've seen him, work with guys like Skyler and Avery and Will and have great success. And it goes back even a little bit farther than that, of course. But I think that part really is important. You have to have a relationship, and the fact that he played the game and played at a high level and was a Heisman finalist and all those kind of things is part of it too. His football knowledge, certainly. But for me, just that one-on-one relationship that I think another really good example probably is Jake Rubley and Adrian Laura. I don't think they wanted to leave here. I mean that sincerely. But to have an opportunity to play probably felt like they had to. And I understand that one too.
Wyatt, it's a shame that we're not going to have a ton of time to talk about, K-State LSU tomorrow. It's been a strange week, and we'll get into all that as we move forward. We'll get into previewing the bowl game as we move forward in future weeks. I do want to finish up here, though, with the video. The other thing fans have been really worried about is Colin Klein leaves. Avery Johnson yesterday, more or less, reassuring people that he's good to go at least for the next year, which is, I think, in college football, all you can really look at now. New number, back to his old days, but a very comforting thing to see that yesterday of like, hey guys, I'm here. Let's do this thing.
You couldn't have said that any better for me. I think all of us, after the shock of hearing about Colin, everybody, I think, was down about, what does that mean for Avery? Well, hopefully, and it turned out to be more than hope, that he's committed. I loved the video. I thought it was really, really well done. And, this is kind of, we've talked about this all year, but it's his time now, right? And I think he's ready for it. That doesn't mean he won't, have some ups and downs. I think the ups will far outweigh the downs. But here we go, and I'm excited for the young guy. He's I like everything about him that I've seen so far. That's obvious.
He's gonna be a star. We're excited about it. We're excited to see him in the bowl game. We're excited to hear about all the things you have coming up for the bowl game, and we'll get into that. We've got a little time to dig into that in the future weeks. A little unorthodox visit this week, Wyatt, with all the different things happening up there, but we certainly appreciate your perspective on all of it.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys each and every week. It has been an odd week, but hey, this place is great. It's been here a long time. We'll survive and move forward, right? That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, you guys will have LSU tomorrow right here with us on KFH. Anything special going there? I know that's a big win against Nova, but this is another big one.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know that they've necessarily played exceptional basketball yet, but they do have talent. I think we saw that last year in the Grand Caymans. K-State won a ball game 61-59 where they wiped off a basket that was late, as you might remember, at the end of play there. And K-State ended up winning that tournament. So it will be a battle. And I do think this is a team that is improving without a doubt. I thought they had one of their best stretches of the season the other night in the Villanova game, several stretches, but the one where you're down 19-13 and go on a 20-6 run against a team like that was pretty good hoops. So I'm anxious to see how they can do getting back out on the road.
All right, Wyatt, we'll look for the call. 11:30 pregame coverage begins right here on KFH tomorrow. Enjoy it, and let's talk again next week.
You got it. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
There goes Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats. You can go back and listen to any of that on kfhradio.com. I'd invite you to do it if you joined us late. Great perspective, different and unique perspective, certainly on the Naquan Tomlin situation, then, of course, on the Colin Klein situation. Situation on Colin Klein's departure there from K-State. You can do that. All right, the IHOP hotline is back open at 869-1240. As it is back open, Max, get ready. Let's give away some Wonka tickets. So the new Wonka movie, that's the new one, is coming to Boulevard Theaters at Town West Square. A special sneak peek of that musical starring Timothée Chalamet. 7 o'clock next Thursday, this coming Thursday, I suppose it is now, December 14th, one way or the other. Max will get us a winner for our first caller. You can get some movie tickets on us here at Sports Daily, 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 1. Football picks with Paul Savage coming next hour. Chiefs talk for the weekend against the Bills. We'll get into that. All kinds of good stuff coming for you on Sports Daily. All right, welcome back, everybody, here to Sports Daily. We are making our way through this Friday. We're going to have some football picks. We'll dig into Chiefs-Bills coming up in the next hour, maybe a little, I don't know, Cowboys-Eagles talk, maybe. As we put a button on the last crazy 48 hours in Manhattan there. Mike, who's watching us on our video stream, which you can always do on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. Mike's, I think, siding with administration, and he had some comments yesterday we didn't have a chance to get to. Basically, Mike's saying there must be more to the fight and the story than was told. Of course there is, Mike. Like, that's not at issue here. There better be more to it than that, right? The problem is, the perception is that there's not. The perception is that the president got his feelings hurt when students publicly backed Naquan Tomlin. There's been nothing to dissuade that perception. Therefore, this is what we're going to do. We can only react to what we see and what we hear and what we're told. And right now, we're seeing and hearing that nothing changed except for Naquan Tomlin was being supported by the students. And what we're being told is we can't be told anything. So that's not my problem. If you don't want people to draw those conclusions, you need to figure out a way to be more honest with people. And the other problem is, and Tommy and I have talked about this privately off the air, I have, for me personally, seen this situation too many times where administrators do get their feelings hurt and make rash decisions. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. So if this isn't that case, then you better get out there, especially with this fan base who's been through it with Frank Martin, especially with this fan base who's been through it with John Curry. You better get out there and make sure that's not how they're feeling right now. Or if you're the president there, your job's in trouble. And look, doesn't hurt my feelings. I've never met, don't know, have no idea. But we can say that because it just, who cares, right? Like that. If you don't want those perceptions to be drawn, do something about it.
Well, and you mentioned Frank Martin. I've been thinking about that for the last 48 hours. And it was a different situation, but there are parallels that can be drawn between what happened with Frank Martin and what's currently happening right now. Frank Martin had a really good thing going at Kansas State. They had a lot of success. He was a very, very well-respected coach among the fan base at Kansas State University. There were conflicts between Frank Martin and the administration, I think namely the athletic director at that point, and ultimately Frank Martin goes elsewhere. He goes to South Carolina, which is kind of a step down. Not even kind of, it was a step down
at the time
for him, leaving Kansas State, going to South Carolina, but he did it because he didn't have the support of the administration. He was constantly being undermined. That sort of thing cannot happen with Jerome Tang. He has done far too much for the program in such a short period of time that he cannot feel like he doesn't have the support of that administration, because otherwise the university could be dealing with another Frank Martin situation.
100%. You can't let that happen. And I think the power players are going to try to do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, when we come back, Paul Savage joins us. We will make some football picks. Interesting week. One college game and a bunch of NFL. That's the way it's going to be as we come down the home stretch here with our picks. We'll get into some bowl games as we make our way through, but there just aren't any yet. But we got Army-Navy. We'll do that next. We'll take your calls on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll preview that Chiefs game against the Bills. It's all coming in hour number 2, Sports Daily. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor, Paul Savage in with us here on the show. Welcome in, big fella. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing? By the way, I've got to get it out of the way right now. We opened last night with It's a Wonderful Life at Wichita Community Theater. Runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Everybody come. What a way to start a Christmas season, guys. That is a classic, and thanks for letting me kick that in real quick, if you don't mind.
Paul Savage, the football coach, the thespian, the football picking expert here on the show.
Not so much last
Paul,
week. Not so much last
well,
week.
listen, we got a new leader at the top, fellas.
Congratulations,
yeah.
Tommy.
The lead is gone. It was inevitable. It's not Tommy. It's myself.
Oh,
9 games
I
above
knew,
500.
I knew that. How many games?
Actually 11. Sorry, I went backwards. I'm 11 games above 500 here over the season. We have picked, let me do some quick math here, 130 games so far this year. 130 games. Yeah. So, we got a pretty good sample size here. We're making a little money. We're covering the juice barely, but we're doing it. So I've got a game up on Paul now after, you didn't have a bad week, Paul, last week. You went 5-5. Tommy and I went 6-4. Tommy is creeping back up to 500.
I'm getting there.
3 and 5 on the year.
There.
But plenty of chances to blow it here with our picks sure to fail. They just haven't failed yet this year. We've actually been doing pretty good. All right, so let's get into it. So this is an interesting week, fellas. We have just one college game, and then we have 9 NFL games. So we've got the lines here. It'll be NFL heavy. Max, I'm not sure if you have our picking music there available for us. If you do, hit it. If not, we'll be fine. There it is right there. Look at that. All right, let's start in college. I'm the leader. I'll start things. We got Army Navy. Navy is getting 3 points. I say the same thing about this game every year. My dad's an Army vet. I can't in good faith, pick Navy here. Got to take Army. So I'll lay the 3 points. Paul, you've got your camo hat on. Now, I don't know if that gives us any indication, but, I'm an Army guy by proxy through my dad. So I'm going to take Army. What do you got here?
Well, my dad was in the Navy, but I'm still going to take Army. They are a better football team. I think marginally, they're a better football team. And I can't say that I'm an expert on either one of them, really. But, you check the scores, you look at how they play, you look at their record at this point. I think Army probably wins this game, but it won't be probably more than 7-10 points. I'm going to take Army as well.
Tommy, Chanceburg Island in the Service Academy game.
Well, so here's the thing. You mentioned that I am creeping back into it, and that's true, but I've been pretty good at picking college. I haven't been great in the NFL. And so, of course, we get into a week where we have 9 NFL games and only 1 college game. So that does not bode well for me this week. I don't know much about Army or Navy. The one thing I do know about Army is that Jeff Monken is the coach, and he's very highly thought of, well-respected, has that unique offense that he's run at Army. I don't think I can, in good faith, take that island because I don't know that much about Navy. I'm going to take Army. I'll lay the 3. I'll join you guys for a clean sweep.
All right, there you go.
Oh, there we go. All right, Paul, you lead us off in the
Sure.
NFL. We're going to start with Lions-Bears. Bears are 3-point home dogs. They've been playing a little better, especially on defense. They've got Justin Fields back. The Lions, your Lions, have not been quite as dominant as they were at one point in this season. What are you thinking here?
Well, the Bears are getting better incrementally. Now, are they a world beater yet? Well, no, they're not a world beater yet. But isn't it amazing, how through the course of this season, once at one time they were a joke. We wouldn't even have picked this game because, it wasn't worthy of our attention. But they've gotten better. I respect that on that coaching staff. And with some players getting back to that roster, I'm impressed. But I'm not impressed enough not to take the Lions. It's only 3 points. I think the Lions cover. I think the Lions win that game by 7-10 without any problem. I'm taking the Lions, boys.
Lions -3. Tommy, you've been a Lions doubter since the beginning of time.
Yeah,
I think
yep.
You're going to take this opportunity to get some home points here.
Well, I don't think I can be a Lions hater when they're playing the Chicago Bears, who are terrible. Man, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this line should be Lions -10 as opposed to Lions -3.
Oh,
come on. The Bears are bad.
But they're
Bears are
better.
not a good football
they
team.
just
They're
didn't they
better.
just beat the Vikings.
Yeah, they're getting better,
Yeah,
Tommy.
the Josh Dobbs Vikings, the Vikings
Who had
that,
won prior.
who looked terrible when he played the Bears. I got to take the Lions here. I got to lay the 3. I know I've been a Lions doubter, but I'm even more of a Chicago Bears doubter. To me, this is the easiest pick of the week. Lions -3.
Look, they just played the Lions not too long ago, 2 games ago, in fact, in Detroit, and it was a 5-point game. If that provides us any perspective, that was what it was the last time that they played. I like this bet too. I like it as the Lions, though. I'm going to take the Lions -3. They've got to come back and sort of do what it is that they do, and this is a good opportunity for them to do that. Over the years, they have really struggled keeping Justin Fields contained on the ground. They actually did a good job of that the first time this year. So we'll see, but I'll take the Lions as well. We'll make 2 sweeps. Don't like that right out of the gate. Let's go to the next one, Tommy. Colts Bengals. The Bengals are 1.5-point favorites at home. The Browning Bengals, fresh off that win against Jacksonville. This feels trappy to me, but what are you seeing on it?
So the Colts put up a ton of points a week ago in their overtime win against the Titans. The problem was they gave up a lot of points to the Tennessee Titans. That's the issue with the Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Taylor continues to be on IR. They still do have a fairly potent offense, surprisingly, without Anthony Richardson and without Jonathan Taylor. But there was something last week about the Bengals and the way that Jake Browning came out there and really relied heavily on Jamar Chase. Knowing the fact that that connection worked really well a week ago for Cincinnati, and knowing the fact that the Colts, they don't have a very strong defense at this point. I'm going to take Cincinnati. I'll lay the 1.5.
Yep. I'm with you. I think that, Browning is certainly capable with T. Higgins back of taking advantage of one of the more gifted skill groups in the NFL. The Colts, the Colts can sling it too, though. Gardner Minshew's found a groove here with those receivers. So I'm going to take the Bengals as well. I think they're a really hard team to pick. Paul, are you making it 3 sweeps here?
I'll tell you what, Tommy doesn't take advantage of islands, but something, I was going to take the Bengals, but marginally speaking, because, you still don't have your main guy and you're going, I don't know, the wheels could fall off. You get the feeling, maybe you get the feeling that the wheels could fall off, at the quarterback position with the Bengals. And I don't know if it will. I don't know if it won't. But if it turns into a shootout, then I kind of like the Colts. Guys, I might be crazy, but I might just pick up a game on you guys. I mean, 1.5 isn't many points. It's almost like a pick 'em. But why not? Why not the Colts? They can light it up. I'm going to take the Colts.
Anybody want to be a part of Savage Island? Sounds like a bad reality show. Savage
Can you
Island.
imagine that? It's like Naked and Afraid.
Hey, at least I got the guts to do it, Tommy. You passed 2 islands up.
All right.
I had 5 islands a week ago.
Oh, well,
I
that
had
is
5 islands.
Yeah, that's
and it didn't make any difference. We all ended up in the same
Yeah,
spot anyway.
yeah.
All right, let's go Jags and Browns. This one is more interesting. We're picking it now, not knowing about Trevor Lawrence, who wants to play, who's doing everything he can to play. He does have some of that Gumby factor that Patrick Mahomes has. So Jags are at the Browns. The Browns are 3-point favorites here. This one's interesting, and I got to go first. Boy, I don't know. It's really a bet on whether you think, Trevor Lawrence will play.
That's the key.
And Joe Flacco looked pretty good though. But then he got I don't know what to do here. I am so on the fence with this game. I won't put a penny on it in real life. I'm going to take the home Browns. I'll take the home Browns, and we'll see what happens with Trevor Lawrence. But even if Lawrence is dealing with a bad ankle, maybe that pass rush, get in there and make that a little uncomfortable for him. I'll take the Browns. I'll lay the 3, and we'll see what happens. Paul?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm kind of with you. The 3 points, I don't know that's – listen, it all depends on Trevor Lawrence. And then it depends on how well can he play. I mean, the Gumby factor, I get that. But how mobile is he? How much pressure can he take? Can he move around in the pocket a little bit, or can he get out of a problem? I don't know. Because of that, I should take the Browns, but because you took the Browns, I'm taking the Jags.
Okay, I mean that's not a bad way. I really do think it's a coin flip type of a game. Tommy,
Yeah.
What do you think?
So here's the issue at the quarterback position for the Jags. Not only is Trevor Lawrence doubtful or questionable, but his backup CJ Beathard is as well. He showed up on the injury report this week with a shoulder injury. So there's really no clarity as of right now who's going to start at quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. With the Browns, you mentioned Joe Flacco, but I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think it's his job. I think that he's out of concussion protocol from what I read, so I don't know who's starting for the Browns either. Like, that's what makes it really bizarre, this matchup. I know I'm the tiebreaker here. I think the only reason why I'm going to go this direct is because I'm getting points, but I'll join Paul. I'll take the Jags and I'll take the points.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Paul, you lead us off on this one.
All right.
Rams, Ravens. Ravens are 7.5-point favorites at home against the Rams.
Well, this is one of those games that I think is fairly easy to pick, at least for me. Notwithstanding, 7.5 points. That's a lot of points. But the Rams traveling across the country, play the Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens, and I'm going to give 7.5, guys. That's a lot of points to give, but I'm going to go ahead and give it. I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah. Tommy, you're up next on this one. I think I know where you'll lean here, but what do you think?
I've been a big-time Baltimore Ravens fan this season. I think that they're better than at least you give them credit for, Jacob. I think that they are, in my mind, the true leader in the AFC right now. I think they're better than all the other division leaders in the AFC as it stands right now. And so for that reason, after Paul picked the Ravens, I did have a fleeting thought that I would change my mind and pick the Rams. But I'm going to stick with what I have. I'm going to go Ravens. I'll join Paul. I'll lay the 7.5, and I'll give you the opportunity for an island, Jacob.
Yeah, look, at 7.5 with that hook there, I think I'll take it. The Rams have won 3 in a row. One of those was against the Seahawks, and then they've sort of smashed on Arizona and Cleveland. And it's, the thing for Cleveland, I know they didn't have their quarterback, but they scored 36 points on that defense. So yeah, the Ravens have a great defense, but the Rams are moderately healthy finally again. Stafford's there. Their running game is back going with Kyron Williams. They've got their receivers. It's really I don't think they're going to go to Baltimore and win, but I think they could get it within a touchdown and a half, like on a backdoor cover type thing. I'm good with taking that island. I'll take the points there. All right, Vikes, Raiders. Tommy, you're up first on this one. Raiders are 3-point home dogs in this game.
The Raiders have played relatively better since Josh McDaniels was let go, and Antonio Pierce has kind of rallied the troops there in Vegas. They didn't have a great game against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. They started off well, but then, ultimately fell apart at that point. The Vikings, on the other hand, they're coming off of a bye. Josh Dobbs did not look good before the bye. There was speculation with Kevin O'Connell that he might make a quarterback change, but ultimately it looks like they're going to stick with Josh Dobbs. And, oh, by the way, Justin Jefferson is returning.
That's
it looks
right.
like
Yep.
this weekend.
Right.
So because of that, I'm going to take the Vikings. I'll lay the 3 points.
I'm with you. I'm not comfortable with this at all. I do think Josh Dobbs everything is sort of on the line here, and he does get Jefferson back, and he got the extra week to work with Jefferson to some degree. We don't know how that will even work out for him, but I think that with a full complement of weapons now and a Vikings defense, which has been much, much better lately, I'm comfortable with it. With laying the points, I'll do it. I'll give the home team points. But Paul, you got a chance here at a pretty good island, I would think.
Yeah, I like this island. First of all, this boils down to how Dobbs will do. Now, he was, we had him scheduled for his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a few weeks ago? I mean, that's
right.
That's practically where we were with this kid. I mean, out of nowhere, boom, all of a sudden, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the entire NFL.
He didn't even know his teammates' names or the playbook, and he goes out there and he lights it up.
That's the story. I remember that now. That's right. He went to practice and didn't even know who his receivers were. I think that's an interesting story. But with that being said, he's kind of fallen to earth. We've had conversations that will he even start this week? And when you have that kind of doubt in your quarterback and you're going to play in Vegas and you're going to play the Raiders, and I'm not saying the Raiders are world beaters, but when you're going to give the Raiders 3 points with a quarterback, and by the way, which Dobbs will show up is kind of the way I would look at this game and say that's who I would pick. But I don't know that it's going to be the good Dobbs that we had at the beginning. The surprise is gone. I'm going to go ahead and take the Raiders. I don't think this is a bad island. I really don't. I'm going to take that island, and I'm going to give the 3 points.
Okay. All right. You're going to give the 3 points?
Well, no, I take 3 points.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not giving anything.
So you're on Raiders.
I'm on Raiders. I'm on the Raiders.
By the way, just a quick aside. Paul, you writing all this down?
I got it all written down.
Okay, good, because I'm not, and we got to get this.
I'll send it to you right when we're done.
Just a little side note there, bookkeeping. All right, let's go to Seahawks Niners. Niners 11-point favorites at home. Welcome to this world. Now, I think I'm up first. Look, you kind of historically this year, at least, when you get to these numbers, unless you get one of those weird things where the favored team just outright loses, they kind of cover it. And so the Niners are playing well. Seahawks are kind of headed in the other direction. I'll take the Niners reluctantly. I never feel good about these kinds of lines, but I'll lay the 11 and just see what happens here. I'll take San Francisco. And that's tough to do, but whatever. That's where we're at. Paul?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's not enough points. Tommy, this is going to be one of those games. The cover will be made by halftime. The cover will be done. The game will be over. I have no confidence in the Seahawks against the 49ers. The 49ers are playing well. McCaffrey's running the ball well. Brock Purdy is that guy that came out of nowhere at some point from Iowa State. You think to yourself, wow, where did he come from? 7th round. There you go. All those kind of things. I like the 49ers, fellas. They're going to cover this game by 3 or 4 touchdowns would be my guess. I'm going to take 49ers too.
Well, okay.
Tommy?
So the Niners are the best team in the National Football League.
They might be.
They just are.
Yep.
They just are. They're the
Yep.
most talented. They've got the best offense. They've got one of the best defenses. They're the most complete team right now in the NFL, in my opinion. Yeah, they lost 3 in a row earlier this season, but distant memory as far as I'm concerned. They went into Philadelphia a week ago and demolished the Philadelphia Eagles, who had the best record in the NFL before that time. I mean, it was 42-19 was the final score. They beat the Eagles by, I'm not even good at math, 23 points, 20, whatever points that is, beat the Eagles by that margin. They should do this easily against the Seahawks. I can't take an island here in good faith. Give me the Niners. I'll lay the 11.
Okay. Those big lines get tricky. That's why I put it in there. Broncos Chargers, before we get to the two big ones. Chargers 2.5-point favorites at home against Denver. Denver, I don't want to say Denver came crashing back down to earth last week.
Well,
I don't
that'd be
think
accurate.
that's necessarily.
Well, that's accurate.
I don't think it was crashing down to earth last week. The Chargers, boy, that was a game that set football back a few years. Who's up first here? Paul, actually, I think you're up
All
first
right.
on this one. Go ahead.
Well, I'll go ahead and take this one now, and I'm going to take the Broncos. Now, I was really disappointed in the Broncos last week. I had penciled that as a win last week. I lost that game. I lost it handily. I was very, very disappointed. Does it happen again? It might. I don't know. But the impressive way that the Broncos have come back and played with some force and have played, good football, that's impressive to me. They got a Hall of Fame coach. He gets them back on track. I gotta take the Broncos and take the points. I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos. I'm hesitant, but I'm going to do it.
Okay. Broncos for Paul. Tommy, where do you have?
Okay, so I'm pulling out my crystal ball right now to tell you what I think is going to happen, not only in this game, but in the aftermath of this game. I think the Broncos go to LA. I think they bounce back. I think they beat the Chargers. I think they embarrass the Chargers at home.
Wow.
And I think Brandon Staley is out of a job come Monday. I mean, the fact I know they won, they beat the Patriots a week ago, but the final score was 6-0. And the Patriots are not good.
Right.
They're just not, right? I think that Brandon Staley has been on the hot seat for a while. I think that ownership is looking for a way to get him out. And I think the Broncos will be the team to finally push him out the door. I think Denver wins. I'm gonna take the 2.5. I think the Broncos win, and I think that Staley's out of a job.
I'm going to switch my pick just for the chance at an island here because I do think it's close. There were elements in play, weather elements in that 6-0 game. The Chargers offense just hasn't been very good. They've had a lot of injuries, and they just haven't performed. But their defense has gotten better, certainly. And I think, at home, they can beat the Broncos. I mean, it's possible. So just at the chance of an island, I do think it's close. I was going to take the Broncos here, but I'll take the Chargers with an island. Can they get enough done, and can the defense continue to play well? The one thing about Denver is Russell Wilson has not been playing well, and the Chargers' pass rush, if nothing else, appears to be back. So we'll see. But the Chargers just don't have a lot to work with left on offense. One of those, Keenan Allen games. Do they just, do they shadow Surtain on Keenan Allen? I don't know what's going to happen there, but I'll take the chance at an island. All right, Bills, Chiefs. Here we go. Tommy, you're up first. Chiefs 1.5-point favorites. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Chelsea. The line has moved back toward the Bills tremendously. We'll dig into sort of the X's and O's on this game in our next segment. But from a betting perspective, where are you leaning here?
Well, the defense has to have a bounce back performance for the Chiefs from a week ago. They didn't show up in a great way against the Packers in prime time last weekend. Isaiah Pacheco has shown up on the injury report for Kansas City this week. Don't exactly know what that's all about. They need to have him healthy and ready to go. Tired the wide receivers. I'm not even going to mention them in this segment. We'll talk about them in the next segment. The other thing is that Buffalo, they're bringing in some bad vibes to Kansas City this weekend. The Von Miller situation. I don't know if you guys heard about the Sean McDermott controversy from a couple of years ago that happened with him that he had to answer for in a press conference yesterday. Things are not great. They're a desperate team. Josh Allen is catching a ton of heat for his interceptions. He's thrown a pick in each of the last 8 games. Things are not good for Buffalo. They're desperate, but I think I'm going to take the Chiefs to bounce back at home in Arrowhead. I'll lay the 1.5.
All right, Paul. What are you thinking on this one?
I think that Tommy's right on the bounce back. I mean, other than drop passes and that kind of thing, which we still have had in the last game and a couple games in a row, they've kind of been a little factor with the Chiefs, and that's distracting, guys. That's really distracting. We can talk about that in the next segment, but at some point, Kansas City has a quality defense. They have a quality offense. Somewhere it all comes together, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It should. I think it will at some point. Why not this week? I'll take the Chiefs.
Yeah, look, I'm just not gonna ever miss the opportunity to get the Chiefs at home on a 1.5 point line. I think
coming off a loss,
right? Which they haven't had 2 in a row since 2021. There's just like all the trends are in play here. It's really, really hard to pick against the Chiefs just because of all that stuff, right? They don't lose 2 in a row, haven't in a couple of years. You're basically in a pick'em game almost here. But yeah, like and maybe the Chiefs money line, by the way, is the way to actually bet it. But with the line, I'm okay with 1.5. I'm going to take the Chiefs too. I did not expect that though. I didn't expect us to get to that point because I do think this is a really dangerous game for the Chiefs. But we'll get into that in just a second. Let's finish with Sunday Night Football. Eagles, Cowboys. Cowboys 3.5 point favorites at home. I'm up first here, man. I think. Philadelphia losing last week makes this more interesting. I a few weeks ago, I thought Dallas is going to beat Philadelphia at home, right? Philadelphia is now a little bit desperate, but Dallas is desperate for a win like this too. And Dak is playing out of his mind, and I love that he's playing out of his mind. He's the most unfairly criticized quarterback probably of this generation, following his predecessor, Tony Romo, who was that of the last generation. But he's playing great. He's got a chance to win an MVP. Their offense is clicking a little bit. Philadelphia is on its heels. Philadelphia can't play a lick of defense. I'm going to take the Cowboys. 3.5 points is a big number when you're talking about the Eagles. But they're at home. They got to have it. I'll take the Cowboys. I'll lay the 3.5. Paul?
Something what you said is just exactly right. Both these teams are quality teams. Both these teams obviously could make the Super Bowl. I don't know which one will or if either one of them does. There's plenty of those kind of teams still left in this NFL that we can pick those teams. But I'll tell you what, this is going to be the most interesting game. And by the way, for me, it's the toughest game to pick. 3.5 points. I mean, it's a little over a field goal, but this is a tough game for me to pick because I can make a case for picking both of them. But because I've been with the Cowboys done me right, fellas. They've been good to me. I'm going to go ahead and take the Cowboys just based on the fact that, man, I've banked on them this year. I'm going to take the Cowboys.
Tommy?
I've not felt good about any island opportunities that I've had in this week until right now. I have an opportunity for an island to take the Eagles. And look, the Cowboys, they've got to have it. They're at home, all of that. I think this is going to be an incredible football game to watch. We know the history and the hatred between these two. To match up this rivalry is always so much better when the two teams are both really good. And that's what we have in Sunday Night Football in this matchup. I'm really, really excited for this game. I don't know if the Eagles will win. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the Cowboys do get, a late field goal to win the game or whatever. But I do think that if you're going to give me the Eagles who lead the division and are one of the top teams in the conference, and you're going to give me 3.5, I'll take Philly. Give me the Eagles. I'll take the island, and I'll take the 3.5.
Okay, there it is. There's your island. It's not bad. It's the best island.
That's not a bad island,
frankly. Yeah, getting 3.5 points for Philadelphia is easily the best island of the week. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. We'll get the receipts. Paul's got it. He'll send those out, and we'll get to it next week. All right. When we come back, let's get into the X's and O's of this Chiefs-Bills game. We'll take your calls at 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Josh tells us on Facebook that he's a religious daily listener for 10 years, listens to the stream, jumping into the video stream for the first time. We appreciate that, Josh. Just a reminder for everybody, if you do want to catch us that way, you can do it on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch to watch us on the video stream, as well as listen to us here over the air, of course, on KFH or at KFH Radio or on the Odyssey app. Lots of different ways to take in the show for you here. All right, let's talk about this Chiefs game, fellas. Chiefs-Bills. Look, this is a great test for both of these teams, man. This is going to be high intensity. It is going to be high drama. Neither team can really afford to lose this game for, I suppose, different reasons. This is a tough spot for the Chiefs, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity for the Chiefs, Tommy, to sort of reestablish this, because despite the records, no matter what the records say, just as far as a pure talent, as far as a pure, on a neutral field, whatever, the Bills are still one of the toughest teams in this league. And this is a chance for the Chiefs to remind everybody of where they stand right now in this league.
I don't think it's unfair to say at this point that both the Chiefs and the Bills are playing for their seasons. Both of them are. I think the Bills are more desperate. Obviously, you take a look at their record. You take a look at the fact that they might easily find themselves out of the playoffs entirely. That's not really the case right now for Kansas City. But the Chiefs, I mean, we've talked about it through 13 weeks. And this is the 14th week we've talked about the issues that Kansas City has. And they've got to right the ship. They're 8-4 right now. I understand that. I get that. They are still in the hunt for a number one seed. I understand all of that. But there is a different vibe right now with this Kansas City team than what we've seen in the past. And so I don't think it is unfair to say that both teams, to an extent, at different varying levels, are playing for their season.
Mm-hmm. Paul, where does it get to if let's say the Chiefs don't win this game? Because I think while I agree to some of what you're saying, Tommy, in the sense that I think the Chiefs kind of need home field advantage this year. I don't think it's, out of the question that even they could lose this game and take a run through the playoffs on the road. I think they can do that. But in order to do that, we've got to see them playing better. And so that's where it's sort of like if they don't play well and they lose that game, we're just running out of time for them to start playing better. But, Paul, if you can, highlight one thing that you want to see in this game that would make you feel better, what would it be?
No self-destruction. How about that? You get beat physically up front. That's one thing. You can live with that. You can get better. You can do things the next weekend to get better and better with that kind of stuff. I don't want to see self-destruction on this football team. I don't want to see drop passes. And even though it wasn't as much of a problem last week, it was still a slight problem. And this is a team that right now, for instance, let me give you a for instance, fellas. I get into the studios, I walk down and pay my respects to the hitman, Greg Williams, and go down to his office, say hi to him, and we chit chat about the Chiefs. And you know what comes up? I know this will shock you. Drop passes. That comes up. I mean, it's a team that has kind of set itself up for this kind of self-doubt. And that's what I'm talking about. Some team comes out and beats you. You shake their hand after the game and say, good job. You did a great job. That was not, good for you guys. You beat us fair and square. But it can't be self-destruction. That is so right now. That is part of the problem with this team, is that it is self-destruction that hurts this team. And I think it's a problem. So I want to see the Chiefs do what they need to do and not give away points, not give away first downs, not give away, things with penalties and move the ball and give this team free first downs. That's what I want to see. Nothing to do with self-destruction. What do you think?
I think on top of that, Paul, I mean, and to your point, I do agree where the self-destruction and the turnovers and giveaways and all of that's a huge deal.
And penalties.
I really think
penalties too. Yeah.
But if you want to, focus in on the turnovers for a second, I mean, Josh Allen has been much maligned for the fact that he throws a bunch of interceptions, and a lot of times he throws critical interceptions. He's had a pick in each of the last 8 games. On the flip side, Patrick Mahomes has an interception in 5 of the last 7. So both of them are turning the ball over more than what they would want to do, right? And so I really think, to your point, Paul, the winner of this game is going to be the team that doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's going to be simply put, like whichever quarterback is cleaner with the ball. And I know it's not always on the quarterback. Mahomes had an interception last week that was on him and Sky Moore for running a bad route. So, but whatever quarterback between these two teams has a cleaner game, that's probably going to be the team that wins the game.
Yeah, you're right. That's a possibility.
I know that everybody wants to say it's that, can Allen, I think that there's going to be points scored in this game, right? I think both of these quarterbacks have a history of stepping up in these moments. I think we're going to see some points. I have not liked the Chiefs over pretty much at all this year. I do like it here, partly because their defense certainly was not as good last week as it has been. But the Bills are relatively healthy on offense, right? Diggs is there, Davis is there, Cook's there, Allen's there. And it's their defense where I think they're going to have some trouble. And this is, a spot for Kansas City's offense where they may have to bail out the defense. Like, even with the great defense, sometimes you got to bail out your defense. And you've got Mahomes and you've got Kelsey. And this will be an opportunity for them to do that. So I do think there will be points scored. And that lends itself to what you guys were just talking about. So if we're going to get into a shootout, I think that we will. Which team doesn't self-destruct? Both of these teams have done a whole lot of that this year. And I don't know, that's what I mean. This could be a wacky, wild, they're desperate mistakes. I mean, at this point, don't we have to say mistakes are going to be made, right? Like both of these teams are very likely going to make mistakes. So then a part of it too is which team takes better advantage of the mistakes, right? If one team turns it over, which team's better at putting points on the board based on that turnover? Because that's a part too. I think we'd be naive to sit here and say, well, whichever team doesn't make mistakes, because that's not in their DNA this year. They're both going to make mistakes based on what we've seen now for 13 weeks. So which team takes better advantage of the mistakes the other team makes, I think, is also something that becomes critical.
Well, I love your point.
I think,
go ahead, Tommy. Go ahead.
I just want to say very quickly, I mean, I think to your point, Jacob, the Chiefs really struggled in the red zone a week ago against the Packers.
That's why they lost the game.
Mahomes took sacks in the red zone that we've not seen him take before. And that's partially, I think, on the offensive line needing to play better. But also, if we're talking about which team can take advantage of the mistakes, if that happens, then Kansas City is going to have to cash in when they get those opportunities inside the red zone. I think there are a lot of things that you can draw off of the primetime game a week ago against the Packers and look at and say, okay, if this happens in the Bills game, they have to do a better job at that. And that's red zone, and if they're able to get turnovers, Josh Allen is a turnover prone quarterback. If they get those turnovers, they get good field position. They've got to be able to cash in more than just field goals, which they weren't able to do against the Packers.
Right. And Jacob, I loved your comment just before Tommy, because it generated a thought process for Tommy, and it generated a thought process for me as well. And where Tommy went to turnovers, I went to time of possession. And how do you win a ball game and keep the ball out of the hands of a really good offense? You possess the ball. You don't turn it over, as Tommy was saying. You don't have stupid penalties, self-destructive penalties that cost you first downs, and time of possession. Guys, I might be wrong, but very easily the team that wins this game with the Chiefs and the Bills could be the team that has the most possession time. It really, part of the key on this game is keep the ball out of the hands of the offense. How about that? And I think, Jacob, you kind of generated that thought process on your last little bit, and I think it's a good point. Tommy, you were right too. Turnovers. Oh my gosh. Well, turnovers almost every game, but in when you have two offenses that are potentially really good on any given day. I'm not saying they're the best in the league. I'm just saying potentially they can be the best in the league potentially on any given Sunday. But I like that. I think possession, I think turnovers, man, whichever team has the most possession time and the least turnovers, guys, that team wins, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very back and forth. The
Yes.
Chiefs have won 3 out of the last 5 meetings. These teams have played a whole lot in recent years. They played 5 times since 2020. And a lot of those have been high-profile games. This feels like a high-profile game.
Yeah.
This isn't the same as we thought it was going to be when the season started. When the season started, we thought this was going to be a game of like, oh, this might help determine who's got home field advantage, right? And that is important, but it's not as important. Now it feels like a playoff game. I mean, it feels like for both of these teams, this is that kind of a game. And so, that lends itself to scoring. That lends itself to 2 big-time quarterbacks making big-time plays, and this year probably making big-time mistakes. And I can't wait for it. And I think it will be incredible. And I think the Chiefs would be very smart to try to run the ball. I'm not too worried about Isaiah Pacheco. I think it's probably more like maintenance work on him to get him back. Today's the day to watch on that practice, by the way. Friday practices are critical in the NFL. My guess is that he would practice and be fine. If he misses practice today, we got a real problem in this game. I mean, Chiefs have got to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, and one other thing to point out is in the game against the Packers, and this goes to the time of possession conversation, Kansas City and Green Bay, especially in the first half, the possessions that each team had, they were pretty limited, right? Like they were at a premium. Possessions were, and so I would imagine, and I kind of lean with you, Jacob, when you say that the over might be in play. I think we will see more possessions, but you have to make those possessions count, because you can't find yourself in a situation like you had against the Packers where you had limited possessions to score. You didn't take full advantage of those possessions. And then you found yourself at the end of the game trailing and needing to put together a big time drive with no timeouts and limited time on the clock to win the game. You can't have that time of possession strategy fail you in that regard. And so I think it will play a little bit different than it did a week ago because the Bills are not the Packers, but still, I think that's a concern you have to keep your eyes on.
Paul, we all picked the Chiefs. We all think the Chiefs are going to do it, but it's going to be an interesting path to get there.
It's going to be very.
If the Bills lose, they're not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
If the Bills lose this game, I mean, it would be a miracle if they make it in. You're talking about like a wounded dog here. This is going to be awesome. I cannot wait for this game. It'll be fantastic.
It's going to be very interesting because let's face it, I'm kind of disappointed in the Chiefs. I think a lot of people are.
Everybody is.
I think
everybody is.
Everybody is. And so I'm not alone in that, I guess. But
what does it mean? I don't know what that means. They can still win a Super Bowl.
Well, that's
absolutely.
right.
Both of these teams,
Well,
both
whoa,
of these
whoa, whoa.
teams can still win a Super Bowl.
hold on, big boy. Hold on. If they play better, I mean, not right now. I mean, not the way that
Right.
either one are
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, are
Yeah.
capable of.
They're
Yes.
capable of.
All right.
That's better said. Yes.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take a real quick look at the college basketball weekend. It feels like a month since we've had a college basketball game. There's been other stuff distracting us from it, but we'll do that next on Sports Daily.
To get back to the sports talk,
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Paul Savage, Tommy Chamber, Max Power producing for us. Guys, we got basketball on Saturday. We mentioned briefly there K-State and LSU. You got a game at Intrust Bank Arena as well with Wichita State and South Dakota State. So Shockers got to bounce back from that game against Missouri, which I think we all think they played well there, but doesn't matter if you don't bounce back at IBA now and take care of business against the Jackrabbits.
Yeah, we've seen this program play multiple times at Intrust Bank Arena. It's a difficult place, I think, for a lot of teams to play just because it's a different environment. And I know that this is the first time that you're going to have Paul Mills coaching inside that building. You're going to have this particular iteration of the Shockers inside that building. There is something to be said, I think, for even though it's a home game, when you're away from the friendly confines of your home arena and playing in a neutral site, even if it is in your home city, you got to adjust to that a little bit. I think this is a good opportunity for Wichita State to bounce back. I thought there were a lot of things that looked really good that the Shockers did against Missouri earlier or last weekend. So they've got to take those things and apply them into the game this weekend. I think they'll be able to do that.
Right, and they've got to finish. I mean, the Shockers were in that game with Missouri. I mean, guys, 4 or 5 minutes left. It was at 1.34 point game, and of course, it ended up being what I believe a 10-point victory for Missouri. But it was a lot closer than that 10 points. And Wichita State's got to translate that into against a team like South Dakota State. I mean, you've got to be able to defend and slow a team like that down. I'm encouraged. I'll be real truthful. The Missouri game encouraged me in a lot of ways. Now, am I sad they lost? Of course. I wish they would have won. But it was a close game. It was a good game against a team that's really a lot better than I thought they would be. Of course, even the Missouri football team was better than I thought they would be. But with that being said, there's a lot to build off of, even off that 10-point loss, because they did play well. So Tommy's right. You come in, you play the game, you take care of business. You're just a couple of weeks away from conference play. This is the time. They are getting better. They're figuring it out. Listen, this is a team that's getting better. I'm bullish right now on the Shockers. Bullish.
By the way, we can't forget KU and Missouri, the border war in Allen Fieldhouse tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a jacked up environment.
Yeah.
KU's
I
going to
can't
crush
wait
them.
for that game too. It's going to be so much
Are you
fun.
going, Tommy? I'm just curious. You going?
I won't. No, I won't be there.
Okay.
But be watching it on TV. It'll be a great time.
All right.
KU's going to crush them. That's my prediction.
I think
All right.
You're right.
We'll come back. We'll tell you what's on tap this weekend next on Sports Daily.
Dear Santa, I've been really, really good.
All right. That's it, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. It's been a fun show. It's been a wild and crazy show. Coming up today, you've got regular programming, and then tomorrow, 11:30 is when we begin coverage of K-State LSU. That's on KFH. At 3:45, you've got Butler basketball on KFH. Over on KEYN, you get the Shockers pregame coverage at 5. Chiefs, Bills at 2 o'clock on KNSS Sunday, then Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Dallas back on KFH. So that's all there. I'll be on CBS Sports Radio Sunday morning from 5 to 9 a.m. here locally. So tune in for that. And Paul, about 5 seconds, go see it on stage tonight.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life at Wichita Community Theater tonight and Saturday at 8 o'clock, Sunday at 2 o'clock matinee. Come see us.
Thanks to Max for filling in for us. He'll be back with us on Monday. For Tommy, I'm Jacob, and Paul, we'll see you then.